Well, as we just heard, the gospel reading for today from the lectionary happens to be the one where Jesus gives us the greatest commandments: to love God and to love one's neighbor as oneself. So it's all about love of God, love of neighbor, and love of self. And all of those things are one. Father Thomas Keating, who died last week, he was the man who taught us centering prayer. He said that to not have self-love means to not love God. For love of self and love of God is the same thing, because we are one with God. Now today, we are going to hear all about the power of love from the author of this best-selling book called Big Love. Many of you have read the book Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. And Elizabeth Gilbert, on the back of this book, says, Scott Stabile is a wonderful presence of love, advocacy, warmth, resilience, and grace in the world. I adore and admire everything he creates. We are so grateful to have Scott Stabile with us here this morning to give us a message of love. After the success of this book, Scott has amassed a huge following on social media, and he gives workshops and retreats all over the world about the transformative power of love. So would you please give a nice, warm Douglas UCC welcome to Scott Stabile. Thank you.
How's that? You hear me? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope I can live up to that introduction. And I feel I must correct Sal, the book is not a bestseller, but it's doing okay. So, but thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I got to have the experience of spending the day in Friendship Hall, and hello to all the Friendship Hall people back there. And I gave a writing workshop, so I got to meet several people from this congregation yesterday. And if I'm honest, I'm not a regular churchgoer. And that's really a euphemism for I don't go to church much at all. But I love when I come in contact with churches and congregations that are really living the message of faith, that are really living the message of Christianity, which for me is rooted in love, which is what we're talking about today. It's very easy to say you're a person of faith. It's a whole different level to actually act in accordance with what your faith is telling you to do. And I love this sign behind me because it tells me what this congregation is about, that it is about activism. It is about being out there in the world, present in what you are talking about in this room. So thank you for having me today. We're going to talk about love. I'm a big fan of love. I believe in it with everything I have, and I believe absolutely that love is love. Whenever you're operating in the energy of love, and when I speak about the energy of love, I'm talking about everything that love invites into our lives, like kindness, like compassion, like empathy, forgiveness, authenticity. Anytime you are moving through the world in that energy, you are serving yourself, you're serving God, you're serving your neighbors, because it truly is all one thing. Any act of love serves us all. So Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And I want to focus today a little bit on the self part. In truth, when I look around the world, I think we are loving our neighbors as ourselves because we're not doing a very good job of loving ourselves. And I think it's evident in how we're loving the people around us. And self-love, for me, is the starting point to it all. It is critically important to look at and to pay attention to how you are showing up for yourself in this world, because how you are showing up for yourself directly correlates to how you are showing up for the people in your life and to our world in general. So if you'll permit me, and this is a totally inappropriate place to tell this story, but I want to tell you a little story about my underwear. Yeah, I saw this woman's eyes go like, what? So I was sitting in my home at the kitchen table one day, and I'm typing away on my computer, doing some work, and I'm noticing my underwear are really uncomfortable, so I'm like shifting in my chair, and I'm pulling them out, and all of this business, and I'm trying to write, and I'm thinking, I hate these underwear, and I'm writing some more, and I'm thinking, these underwear are so uncomfortable. Like, why are they so uncomfortable? And I'm going back and forth in my mind between trying to get some work done and shifting my underwear. And it's about 2 hours of this before the light bulb goes off. And it was like a voice from above saying, Scott, take off these underwear. Get them off your body immediately. You don't have to live like this. And that's what I did. And I'm a little bit melodramatic, as my partner will attest to, so I grabbed scissors and I cut them because I was angry at this point that the underwear had caused me so much frustration. I cut them, I threw them in the trash, I went to my underwear drawer, pulled out a couple other pairs that I knew were not good, threw them in the trash as well. This is a silly story. I'm telling you a story about underwear in church. And it seems so insignificant, the idea of wearing uncomfortable underwear. And it seems so incredulous that it would take me 2 hours to remove them from my body. So I feel before you all judge me, I want to ask a question, and you're in church, so you have to be honest. How many of you have ever worn uncomfortable underwear? Okay, right, all right. And then, if you want to be really honest, how many of you are wearing uncomfortable underwear right now? Okay, one honest person over here. They're boxers, she says. So the thing about this moment, and the reason I'm telling you this story, is this is not a small moment. Because every minute that I spent in this uncomfortable underwear is a minute of self-abuse. And I don't say that as hyperbole, right? Every choice we're making that contributes to our discomfort is a choice we're making to treat ourselves poorly. And I can assure you that as we get in touch with those choices we're making through the day, and we become aware of those smaller choices, the underwear we're wearing, and how we're taking care of ourselves in these small ways, we're going to see a very direct correlation to how we're taking care of ourselves in the bigger matters in our lives. It's all connected. It all matters. You know, it's all self-love. And the thing about wearing uncomfortable underwear, what I'm saying, the message I'm saying to myself, the message I'm announcing to God and to the world is that I don't matter enough to myself to take care of myself in the most basic way. And the deeper message, of course, is that I don't love myself enough. And that's a very powerful message to move through the world with. And if you're showing up for yourself in this way, I assure you you're showing up for others in this way on some level. Now, beautifully, this is not a depressing story that ends in me wearing uncomfortable underwear for the rest of my life. Beautifully, we can make different choices, right? You become aware of the ways you're not taking care of yourself so that you can become aware of the ways you are and give your energy to those choices. My hope lives in our power of choice. My hope lives in knowing that it doesn't matter if I spent 20 years in uncomfortable underwear. Today is today, and I can move forward in my life making more choices that reflect my commitment to self-love. And I know that by doing so, I am serving the people in my life and our world on the whole, because I know that all the energy I put into loving myself is energy I'm giving to our world. We know this. People like to say that self-love is selfish. We like to believe it when we're nice people. I don't want to be selfish by loving myself. It's nonsense. You know how you feel when you're taking care of yourself, when you're getting a good night's sleep, when you're well-fed. You have more to give others in your life and in the world. Taking care of yourself is one of the best things you can do for the planet and for the people in your life. It is a gift always. So be aware of the choices that you're making and make better ones that reflect self-love. And it's not just about our actions, it's also about the thoughts in our mind, right? Again, when it's love your neighbor as yourself, some of the ways I love myself, I wake up and I look in the mirror and I think, you're ugly, you're putting on weight, I'm typing, you're not a good writer, you're stupid, you're worthless. These are the things that our minds tell us all throughout the day, and it's nonsense. All of that mental noise that is telling you you are somehow unworthy or unlovable is a construct of the ego. It's decades and decades of conditioning of outside people telling you how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to think, who you're supposed to love. It is nonsense. We are all children of God, which means we are all equally worthy. We are all divine. God lives within all of us, right? So there's no way to argue against our worth and our divinity. And when you start to understand that, you can pay attention to those thoughts when they're trying to tear you down, or those thoughts when they're trying to tear your neighbors down. And you can acknowledge them for what they are, which is lies. And then you can sink into the truth of who you are, which is love, right? And every time we do that, it's an invitation once again to that inner truth, that loving place inside of us that knows, that understands without a doubt, we are divinity. And then you start to move through the world with a capacity for love unlike any other. And it doesn't matter who's in front of you. It doesn't matter what they're saying or doing. What you have to offer that person is this deep love, because you're offering it to yourself. And suddenly we are loving our neighbors as ourselves. But that is real love. You know, that is a divine love, a godly love. No exceptions, no justifications, no conditions, just love. And I'll tell you, I'm not always there, certainly. I'm always falling off the love train, and I'm getting myself back on and moving through the world and always asking myself the question, what does love invite me to do in this moment? What does love invite you to do in this moment when you are compelled to rage and to blame and to hate? What is the other choice you can make in this moment? What is God calling you to do in that moment? It will always be to love, you know? And one other thing I want to say about love, so you're watching your choices. Are you making choices that reflect self-love? You're listening to your thoughts. Are they reflecting self-love? If not, you're interrupting them, right? And you're fueling yourself with affirmations, with the truth of your divinity, with the truth of your worth. And the thing that this does for me, and I believe it will do for all of us, is it allows me to feel less hopeless. We are living at a time, as you know, when there's a big election coming on Tuesday, so it's building, 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 at a time where there's so much violence and there's so much hatred and there's so much rage and division. And this is the reality in our world. It's one reality in our world. And so what happens for me sometimes is I feel paralyzed by it. I feel hopeless within it, like, what can I, one person, do to actually make any sort of real change? And then I remember, there is nothing more powerful on this planet than love. There is nothing more transformational in this world than love. Love is our greatest healer, and love is our only true healer. So anything else going on when supported by love is going to create change and is going to contribute to the healing of this planet. So I know as one person, I have no say in whether we go to war with North Korea and anything about that, but I know that how I'm showing up in my home, with my friends and family, matters. I know that my potential to act with kindness to my community, to the bank teller, to the people in the grocery store, matters. We know this. We've all been touched by kindness. We've all touched others by kindness. We've all lived with moments of kindness that happened 20 years ago, and when we think about them, they warm our hearts. They open us up. That's love in action. Every time we're acting with compassion, that's love in action. Every time we're taking a moment to be empathetic with our fellow brothers and sisters on the planet, to put ourselves in their shoes, to remember that we are all human beings struggling, working hard to make sense of this often unpredictable reality. But when we can take our time to acknowledge each other's humanity, that's love in action, and that's where our power lives. That is where our power lives, and it is undeniable. So if you're ever feeling hopeless, if you're ever feeling paralyzed, if you're ever feeling that there's nothing you can do as a single individual to make a difference in this world, just walk outside your front door, go into your communities, be of service, smile, be kind, be compassionate. Remember to see each other, not just walk beyond each other, but actually see each other and connect with one another's humanity. And this is how we change our world. Love is our healer. So I want to thank you all so much again today for having me here. It's a true joy and a true honor. And I just want to remind you all that there is an election, and it would be wonderful if we all vote. And I encourage you to vote for kindness and for empathy and for compassion and to vote for love. So God bless you all. Thank you.